Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a top level game of Zerg versus Protoss. Spawning here in the bottom right hand corner of Nightshade LE and playing with the blue Zerg drones. He's one of the most successful Zerg players in the world and he goes by the name of soO. His opponent in the opposite corner playing with the red Protoss probes. Some say that he's the very best, but there's no denying that his nickname is Zest. Okay, I'm sorry. That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible. Now, while this game gets underway, normally this would be the moment in the video where I go over all of their results, but I've casted so many of their games in the past. Let us discuss the current meta of Zerg versus Protoss, because in a way, the matchup has sort of flipped between right now and the previous balance patch. So here's the thing. In the previous balance patch, what a lot of Zerg players would go for was mass Infestor with a lot of Brute Lords and then tons of static defense as well, essentially making it impossible for the Protoss player to attack. And once they did, they would get like neuroparasited, they would get infested Terrant, and they would get fungled out of their mind. Generally speaking, whenever I got to like late game Zerg versus Protoss, I think Zerg players had like over 80% win rate if the game went past like the 20-minute or so mark. Nowadays, though, with the new multiplayer balance patch, the tables have kind of turned, and I don't really know if it's necessarily for the better. And I say this as someone who does like playing all three races, but I do primarily play Zerg. When it comes to playing on the ladder right now, the two like versions of Protoss that I encounter the most are either cheese Protoss, right? Like a lot of Protoss players still love going for cannon rushes and proxy gateways and a lot of very aggressive strategies, or on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, tons and tons of Protoss players are just simply sitting back, turtling as hard as possible. After 20 minutes, they finally managed to max out with, you know, that Skytoss army, a bunch of carriers, a Void Race, some High Templar with Psionic Storm, and then a Mothership. And it's essentially just 20 minutes of Protoss sitting back. And once they finally move across the map, I'm pretty sure that once you are like below 6k or so MMR, which is like 99.9% of the player base, you'll probably just lose, and that includes myself. So I'm really curious to see what is gonna go down in this game. soO has always been known as the player who loves droning up super aggressively in the early game, so he loves going up to 66 workers, which is full 3-base saturation as soon as possible. And then after he achieves that, he starts piling on the pressure in the mid-game. So lots of like Hydra aggression, Roach Ravager pushes, Zergling run by, Nidus with like Swarm. Lots of very aggressive styles that soO likes to play in the mid-game. And I kind of think, also judging by some of the games that I've seen Zest play recently at Home Story Cup, I kind of think that Zest wants to play into soO's weakness, which is his late game. Obviously, when I say weakness, he's still a top-tier Zerg player, but when it comes to like the top 5 Zergs, he definitely does have the weakest late game. For example, like Serral, Raynor, Dark, Rogue, like all of those guys, he's certainly amongst that like list of Zerg players, but all of those guys have incredible late game, and I think that they probably can pull rabbits out of hats at the highest level. But I'm really curious to see what soO decides to do right here, because honestly, pretty much all of the games of Zerg versus Protoss that I've seen over the last few weeks that are below the tippity top of the skill level are pretty much all Protoss players winning with a maxed out Skytoss army. So I want to see what soO does over here. I mean, obviously he is still a top tier Zerg player, but I'm really curious to see his approach right now that the meta has had some time to settle. But it's kind of ironic though, because in a way, right, it's kind of flip-flopped. In a way, it's kind of flip-flopped from Protoss players being extremely desperate to end the game before the Zerg player would get up to 20 Infestors. And, you know, right now it's mostly Zerg players trying to do that exact same thing before Protoss reaches that maxed out Skytoss. I'm really curious though, rather, to see where the meta is gonna settle in a couple of months' time. But only time will tell. Nice little bit of harassment here. A lot of respect actually given here by Zest, right? Wasting so much energy there. Does manage to get 3 drones there in total though, which is definitely nothing to shy away from. When it comes to the current version of the Infestor, I actually like it a lot better. So the Infestor, you know, in the past, it was just the one unit that would basically counter everything. And I've never been a fan of when a spellcaster in StarCraft 2 turns out to be like the main damage source itself. You know, for example, like High Templar. High Templar are considered to probably be the best spellcaster in the game right now. You still don't want to get 20 of them, right? You don't get like 20 to 30 High Templar like people did with the Infestor back in the previous meta, right? The same can be said, for example, for like Vipers, right? Or for example, Ghosts. You don't make entire armies based around the Viper or the Ghost. You get a couple of them, add them to the mix of units that you've already got, and your army composition becomes stronger. I think that's pretty much what the Infestor has arrived at right now as well. So, you know, they're still amazing. Obviously, Neuroparasite is very, very good. By the way, this is a loco wall right over here. Neuroparasite is very, very good. And Fungal Growth still certainly has its uses as well, but in general, it's not as massable as it once was. So it will probably take some time for Zerg players to figure out what exactly needs to be done in the late game. Now, I like this a lot actually here already for soO. So he decided to go for the quick evolution chamber. Before like a lair and a Baling Nest and a Roach Warren and all that, he decided to go for the +1 melee first and foremost. Zest, though, has already decided to go for the double Stargate style. So he goes for double Stargate Phoenixes. Nice little bit of micro here. Really does not want to lose any of those Phoenixes if at all possible. The Queens, though, are on the hunt. Oh, well, you gotta be careful. He's gonna lift you up very easily. 7 drones going down so far in this little skirmish. And this is the real strength right here. Oh, that one. Oh, so low. But this is the real strength of Phoenixes here. They pretty much always get value. And this is usually the early game that allows Zest to transition towards that maxed out Skytoss. So, Phoenixes especially, they become weaker the stronger the Zerg army becomes. So the larger the Zerg army becomes, at some point if there's like a lot of anti-air, these Phoenixes just drop out of the sky. So usually these kind of force Zerg players to sit back until they are maxed out before they really start moving across the map. So Zest actually already is making the transition towards double Robo. I always really like this for Protoss. There's like a certain elegancy to it, right? So it's double Gateway, double Stargate, then double Robo, and then double tech structure. So it's a Forge and a Twilight. It's kind of nice, right? Everything comes in twos, apparently. Now, I'm a big fan of this style here. I think it's a lot of fun to play. Really, really strong. Fun to watch as well. But it does lead, usually, right? And I don't know where this game is going to go, but usually it does lead towards that very turtley Protoss mid to late game. Triple Spore Crawler inside of the main right now for soO, so he should be okay. Still a lot of drones, though. How many is that in total? 18. Wow. See, this makes me wonder why not more players go for the double Stargate style. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of micro, right? Like, you have to obviously constantly be on the move with these, and you gotta deny mining time, and the transition is very hard as well, because obviously Zerg can still go for like a Roach Ravager Ling Bane push, and if you, well, have most of your army supply caught up in Phoenixes that are without energy, obviously you're not gonna be able to defend very easily. Still though, soO has just sort of taken all of those losses when it comes to the drone count, and he's just simply making more workers than he absolutely needs to. Already has a bunch of those queens ready to go once again as well. Has any Phoenix? No. Wow. It's actually a flawless game up to this point. That's pretty crazy. The downside, obviously, for Phoenixes, though, as well, is that you can't really go for, like, a timing attack off of this. So usually, if a Zerg player sees a Protoss player opening up with double Stargate Phoenix, they don't really expect any aggression until, like, maybe, like, the 12 or so minute mark. Obviously, Zest could certainly be a little bit more aggressive if he really wants to, but it's just that these Phoenixes are not going to be that great in, like, a straight-up battle. They kind of lose value as time goes by. So usually, they kind of force Protoss to sit back, relax, and make a lot of those very juicy units. Now, ooh, that was an important catch, actually. Slowing down the 5th base ever so slightly. Okay. So, what is soO's approach going to be? He's not known for his late game play, but it's kind of leading into that late game right now already. Maybe he's actually changed his ways, right? I mean, obviously, he's always been known as the kind of guy who doesn't like the late game style. He generally speaking, ooh, well, I mean, there's a massive wall there. What are you gonna do? Yeah, no, he's just gonna, oh god, that's pretty expensive already. He's just gonna try and roll them around. Not gonna happen, buddy. Not gonna happen. He usually doesn't like playing that late game style. He never really played that mass infestor style too much either. Although, you know, obviously he just simply did what needed to be done in order to win and obtain the victory. Likewise, by the way, I can't blame any Protoss players either. I know I may sound a little bit frustrated by it, but I can't blame any Protoss player either for like playing the style, especially not at this level. When there's money on the line, when tournaments are being played, you gotta play the style that is strongest. And that's the reason why Brute Lord Infestor was so popular, and also the reason why I think right now a lot of Protoss players will likely opt for that maxed out Skytoss style, because it's extremely good. And there we have it, by the way. The fleet beacon was produced, 2 carriers are coming up already, 3rd Stargate has also been created, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna see like a mothership start up very shortly as well. So essentially, yeah, this has been Zest sitting back here for a while, other than with those Phoenixes, but right now he's gonna have to deal with a bunch of Zerg aggression. High Templar actually coming from the high ground, gotta be very careful, can't lose those. If you lose the High Templar, this is game over, and actually, you know what? Bunch of them immediately died. A few, though, did morph into Archons as well. That does mean that there's not gonna be any Storm available here for the Protoss player, or at the very least, very little. 10 probes go down so far. Phoenixes, though, still lifting up a bunch of that Zerg army, and I think all things considered, yeah, while Zest lost a lot, this is still very manageable for him. Nice transfuse there of that one roach. Apparently Brenda herself, though, decided to move off creep. I'm sorry, Brenda. That's gonna be the end of life for you. If that army was positioned a little bit better, actually, because the High Templar kind of came in from an awkward angle, this would have been a very easy hold for Zest. Like, if he could have just stormed a couple times over at this army, yeah, I mean, he still held without storm, right? Like, this would have been a pretty clean defense for him. Still right now, though, this is gonna slow down Zerg ever so slightly, and it's gonna allow Zest the time that he needs to build up that Stargate force. So this is kind of like the style that I mean, okay? The style that I'm a little bit worried about. Because I've got a feeling that pretty much all of the games on the ladder are gonna look exactly like this one right here. And at the very least, that's the games that I've been playing, other than like the cannon rushes and all that. I'm a little bit worried that pretty much all of the games are gonna look like this, where Protoss is trying to sit back, eventually max out on that Skytoss army, and once they do, that's when they finally move. Now, soO knows that this is coming, right? So he's already got +3 melee finishing up here at the 11.5 minute mark. That's very quick. He does decide to go for apparently 6 Brute Lords as well. Brute Lords are still really good when it comes to, like, denying the ground army. But it doesn't really give you an answer when it comes to dealing with that maxed out Skytoss force, right? So this is great against, like, Zealot run-bys, Archons on the ground, High Templar as well. They're really good when it comes to zoning, but I want to see the answer here to that late-game Skytoss force that soO is going to have to go up against. Because right now, I mean, I'm looking at the units that he's got. He doesn't really have a whole lot that can shoot up, right? He's got a bunch of Queens, a whole lot of Spore Crawlers set up as well, but what exactly is his plan when it comes to dealing with the Skytoss? Oh, you know what? Whoa! Oh, okay. I did not assume that mistake. Ah, okay, that explains a lot. So he probably tried to land some Psionic Storms and then realized he didn't have the upgrade. Okay. Well, hey. That's a pretty big error. Turns out these top tier pro gamers are human after all. No way. So he forgot researching Psionic Storm, which is probably the most important upgrade for Protoss, other than like Warp Gate, but it's a very, very critical spell to get under your control when you want to deal with those Zerg Ling Bane based armies. Okay, so he's gonna go for Infestors. Very cool. Yeah, so they still have 3 spells, right? So they've got Microbial Shroud, which is absolutely pointless. I've never seen anyone use it in a pro game before. They've got Fungal Growth, and then they've got Neural Parasite, right? Fungal Growth and Neural Parasite, still very helpful. Ooh, this is a nice catch, actually. Zest gets a lot of damage done. Yeah, Microbial Shroud, not that good anymore, but I think you still want to mix in at least a couple of Infestors. So right now he's going for like 5. Just for like fungals and just to slow down the Protoss army. I really like that. A couple of Vipers are coming up right now as well. He's got the Corruptor army ready to go here. One of the things that we've seen, for example, Sero and Raynor execute is that Corruptor Viper-based bowl. So basically you go for a bunch of Corruptors, you go for a couple of Vipers in that unit composition too, and then a whole lot of, what are they called? Overseers. And then those Overseers essentially serve as like a target for the High Templar to accidentally feedback, so, you know, the Vipers won't be feedback, but also to, like, detect any motherships and anything like that, so you can abduct units one at a time and then pick them off as time goes by. Very difficult to execute. I'm curious to see what soO is gonna go for besides that. He does have a lot of Corruptors already, but already, I like this, we have the new Flux of Veins ability, the new old ability, that allows the Void Rays to be significantly faster. And you can see, look at these speedy boys. Ooh, they're gliding through the sky. There's a certain elegancy. The defense, though, so far has been very good for Zest, right? So he's finally maxed out right now. Securing another base. Mothership is coming up as well. That one takes about 7.5 years to produce. And once it's out, what is he going to do after that? This one probably won't be able to deal that much damage either. Nope. Gonna have to put down a pylon again, I guess, but that's gonna complete that little wall. This Archon holding steady so far. It's actually a couple of stasis wards set up just to deal with those kind of run-bys. And all of that is actually rather expensive. Now, the one thing that soO does have going for himself right now is that economy, right? So he's got a lot of drones, he's got a lot of eco in general, and he's going to be able to mine whatever base he likes, because so far there's been very little aggression. However, this seems to be the moment where Zest finally wants to start moving across the map. Now, he needs to be careful. You can't just, you know, aim move across. Even though a lot of forum posters will try... Oh, God. Oh, he doesn't want them anymore. Oh, my God. That's not something I've seen before. He just, there was once again a bit of aggression over here, by the way, but he just ended up killing his own Phoenixes. He just wants to open up supply again to build new Stargate units. I think that's what we're probably going to be seeing here on that production tab in just a sec. That's actually pretty crazy. Probably warped in a couple more Archons or something along those lines for now. Man, the aggression here is actually pretty crazy. Like, these rocks are pretty much down just from, like, banelings. Yeah, so far, Zerg has lost a ton more resources. And I think that's the real strength of that Skytoss army. Now, you know what? I think what a lot of Protoss players would love to see for this late-game Skytoss army is more micro-ability. And what I mean with that is that when it comes to, like, attacking with carriers, there's not a whole lot you can do other than, like, selecting the unit and clicking attack move, right? There's not really a lot of micro, like, for example, Zerg can execute at this level. Really, what it mostly comes down to in these big battles for Zest is just landing the storms and then the spell from the mothership, but that's really about it. You can't really control this army any better than that, other than maybe, like, shift queuing as well with Void Rays, but there's not that much gained value that you can really get by controlling your army better. I think a lot of Zerg players, or rather a lot of Protoss players, would love to make the carrier a little bit less attack movey, but more microable, so you can get more value out of it if you're an actual better player. There we go. Finally, the banelings do manage to connect. There you have it. 16 probes end up going down. Even though this aggression was pretty relentless, the base is now even taking a lot of damage as well. A couple of drones apparently fell in the top right-hand corner, but 21 probes ended up going down here as well. Now, do you even want to replace them? Apparently, he's decided to add on a couple of Tempests as well. I think this may very well already be the point of the game where Zest wants to start giving up probes too. Just like he did with those Phoenixes, just replace them with units that are better and a little bit stronger as well. Cleaning up the creep. Zest knows that he can't really attack very easily. Going on creep is very risky. There's a bunch of Spore Crawlers set up as well. He could certainly play a little bit more aggressively here, I think, but so far not really doing that. Even now goes for the Robo Bay. Probably primarily just to get, like, the Observer speed upgrade, which is kind of ironic. There's even a Shadow Stride coming up, which is the Dark Templar Blink ability. He's basically just getting whatever upgrade he can, just in case it becomes a necessity. But this is kind of the game that I mean, right? So, if you have a look right now at the Zerg army, what exactly is it made out of? So, there's 8... Infestors, there's 3 Vipers, and then 18 Corruptors, 6 Brute Lords, and a bunch of Lingbane. A little bit less Lingbane right now. I think the main strength of this Zerg force right now are probably the Spore Crawlers. I mean, the Spore Crawlers kind of force Zest to go backwards. Because obviously Zest doesn't want to fight on top of those spores, so he needs to find an area where the spores aren't. Or he needs to, like, be given enough time to kill all of those Zerg... you know, static defenses as well. Army in the top right now, dealing a lot of work. And you know what? This creep over here in the bottom left-hand corner is slowly being cleaned up. Now, I really do hope, though, that the meta isn't gonna settle into this kind of game. Because even though this game is fun to watch occasionally, if every single Zerg versus Protoss that I'm going to be casting like a half year from now is going to be Protoss players sitting back for 20 minutes, just like it was with Zerg players for quite some time, that would be kind of lame, right? So the Zerg army now actually in the bottom left-hand corner, so that does mean he's got the opportunity to kill a bunch of those spores before the Zerg army can arrive. Nicely done. And he decides to once again back off because he doesn't want to take any risks. Playing extremely cautiously. Once again, though, that now opens up the opportunity for the Ling Bane army to start moving forward. The +3 melee upgrade from earlier, very, very helpful. Couple of probes once again full too, but I feel like it will come down primarily to one big clash. And that's what we really had back in like the Wings of Liberty era of StarCraft 2. Essentially what the game was decided by was both players making one really strong army, and then eventually they would clash once, and that was kind of game. I think with Heart of the Swarm and especially Legacy of the Void, a lot of small skirmishes became a lot more interesting. Small Protoss hit squad in the top right-hand corner, ready to take out a base if soO decides to take one here in just a little bit. Nidus Worm is coming up right now for the Zerg player in blue. His army is starting to look really scary. One changeling moving forward as well, trying to get something done, but no scouting information for him. Ooh, here we go. soO actually does have that hit squad right now. Observer does get sniped already. Always looking to grab that mothership. The Protoss army, though, is starting to look mighty scary. A couple of High Templar actually now inside of that Warp Prism as well. Zest is looking strong here. He's gonna have to be careful, though. The thing is, Zerg right now is a huge bank. So even if this army is not gonna be enough, there you go. He still has a massive bank to basically replace any of the units that he's got for free. Now, there's a Nidus Worm going up inside of the main base of Protoss. This is not in an area that he can actually see, and this Nidus actually can do a lot of damage. This is where the majority of the production is located. Obviously, a lot of static defense near the front, not so much inside of the main base. Here we go, though. Protoss army right now moving towards the bottom left-hand corner. I think that this base is going to be pretty much gone. The Corruptor squad currently moving forward. Zest did have Revelation on that army as well, so he knows exactly where it's located. Couple of the Brute Lords still left in the top right-hand corner to deal with some of these Archons. Base already was picked off, though, and while a little bit of damage was dealt in the main base, nothing all too critical. Those Dark Templar being very helpful as well. 25 drones end up going down. Zest ended up losing a bunch of his supply as well, but he can obviously replace that once again with more gas-heavy units. Those Dark Templar apparently were cleaned up here as well, though, so that's quite a little bit of damage done. In the meantime, the Zealots did manage to move forward as well. Queens are going to help clean this up as well, as drones are going to try and harvest some fresh new minerals. Protoss army, though, still on the creep, right? This is a very risky position to be in. Needs to be careful. If you get, like, neural parasited, that would be the end of the game right here, right now. Infestor's probably still looking for their fungal growth. He didn't even research Microbial Shroud, which is a little bit of a mess. Actually, they've recently buffed up the ability a little bit. So what is going on over here? Did you see that? They were playing Ling around the Rosie. Well, I guess that works. The Zergling right there was in the middle of that pack, and since the Morphing and Banelings have no attack priority, the Zealots were just sort of charging around the Morphing and Banes. Protoss army, though, did leave the creep once again, and he's just waiting for upgrades, I guess. Yeah, he's just waiting for himself to be completely maxed out. Another neural, or rather another Nidus Worm going up inside of the main base. Dark Templar, though, will be available. And that one deals a lot of damage, so that will be able to clean this up eventually. I gotta say, though, Zest is really playing quite bravely here. Moving onto the creep with this army is very risky. He kind of wants to fight this Zerg player off creep as much as possible. Obviously, that's likewise also not the scenario that soO really wants to be in. So this is gonna be the army, huh? Yeah, I don't know. Let me know before we see like the conclusion of this game, what your thoughts are on this kind of playstyle down below in the comment section. Do you like watching this? I like watching it occasionally, but do you want to kind of watch this all the time? Here we go, big recall back towards that base. And of course, they're playing like, you know, chicken right now against each other. We do see him backing off right now again as well. Now this Corruptor Bull is scary though. Looks like both players may finally want to start looking to take a fight. Both of them maxed out. Massive fungal growth does land a couple of good pot shots as well from those Tempests. A few Void Rays actually activating that prismatic alignment as well. He's looking for the abduct and he does get it. Manages to abduct the mothership there. The mothership almost immediately falls, but not without utilizing 2 time warps. Void Rays coming in from the northern section as well. Now all activating prismatic alignment. Try to snipe down as many of those Void Rays as possible. Zerg is now retreating actually to the safety of those spore crawlers. Queens from the low ground as well, confusing as much as they possibly can. Most of the Zerg spellcasters are gone, but that Protoss army is actually starting to look really, really weak. Look at the hit points there on all of those carriers. A couple of the High Templars still remain. Why is he not storming? Why are you not storming? Go storm down those Corruptors. Those Corruptors are so vulnerable right now as well. Links and Banes actually coming back from, well, wherever they were fighting previously. Most of the Interceptors are gone, though, at this point. And I'm starting to look I'm starting to be a little bit worried here for the Protoss player. Most of the Corruptors now working on those Void Rays. They are the real counter here. And with the Void Rays now pretty much all shot out of the sky, this Protoss army is on the retreat. I think that soO has done it with reinforcing Corruptors now joining in just a little bit. Zest's army gets absolutely crushed there, but why did he not storm there? He had a couple of High Templar available. They did have energy, but for some reason he didn't storm. So that's a good example of what I tried to mention earlier, right? So I'm sure that Zest would have loved to micro that late game army a little bit more. But once he got fungled, there really wasn't much that he could do other than like attack move and try and like target fire down with the Void Rays and activating prismatic alignment and then landing some storms. But that was not even remotely close compared to what soO was doing there, right? So soO obviously had the parasitic bombs from the Vipers. Then he had abduct from the Vipers as well, trying to land them into the spore crawlers. Queens from the back as well, transfusing whatever they can. Infestors utilizing their fungal growths, probably tempting neural parasites as well. Corruptors trying to back away from where those Void Rays were located and then target firing down the abducted units one at a time and really trying to fight outside of the bubble where that time warp was located from the mothership. Like, there's a lot more going on in that late game army from Zerg. And while I think the best Zerg players in the world can counter that Protoss Skytoss army, pretty much everyone, right, who does not play in like the top 10 of Zerg players in the world, maybe top 20 of Zerg players in the world, I'm pretty sure everyone else on the ladder will just sort of lose against this style. And I don't know. I certainly do hope that we're not going to be heading into this turtle-like meta once again for another year for the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. But I guess only time will tell. Make sure to subscribe in case you're interested. I will obviously keep you posted with more pro games over the next few months as well. Going into the future, we'll see where the meta will settle. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you once again in the next one.